On this skills video we're about to show you is really focused in on developing your microblading art to move towards being more and more hyper-realistic. In our industry, hyperrealism brows have taken the world by storm because of how the world is actually changing within itself. And I feel people are moving towards wanting to look more natural and be more like themselves rather than someone else. So it's key we learn to grow our microblading art and accommodate that. When we focus in on hyperrealism, what we're focusing in on is authenticity in every client that we treat, as it's based on making it flow and look exactly like real natural brow hair. So I believe the best place for us to start with this on achieving natural looking microblading is to take a look at how we can improve our actual single strokes, our connections and our bundles. As what I often see and have done myself is over-exaggeration of the strokes in their form. So when we over-exaggerate the strokes, when we then go in to build any detail into the brows such as bundles or groups, things can start to look a bit fake and a bit cartoon-like. So in this next video, I'm going to do a teaching on the iPad and show you where we're going wrong and show you how we can improve. Hey everyone, so the first place I'm going to start is actually just mastering our single strokes. So we use S strokes, we use like curved, like C sort of shaped strokes. We can use straight, we can use inverted, but if they're too overly exaggerated in their form, they're going to like make us run into problems, okay? So what I used to often do was create strokes that were really, say we'll start off with the S stroke. So I would really be like trying to make it exactly like an S shape like that. And what I often used to find is when I then wanted to go in and create a bundle, along the bottom line of my brow, I would have this like weird kind of awkward looking finish, like an awkward looking finish along the lower brow line. As opposed to when I started to straighten out the S stroke and thought about coming off of the skin a bit straighter into a soft bend, then into another soft bend, I really was able to then go in and create bundles that looked so much more cohesive. That was a bit wobbly. So much more cohesive and together along the bottom. Things just flowed, like went together and was more fluid, okay? So if we overly exaggerate our S, this is what we're going to do. So how I got away from that was instead of like thinking immediate curve on action into another curve like so, I thought about just coming out so straight into the soft bend, then into another soft bend, and then finishing off. Now, along the top, you can have it more curved if you wanted. So, for example, if you wanted more of a uniformed, tighter brow line along the top, you can certainly wrap around your S here. But you definitely don't want to do that at the bottom because you will want to then go in and create bundles and create detail. And you'll be really restricted if you do it like this. So say I wanted to then go into these negative spaces and apply another like little bundle for it to be even more detailed. I have the space to do that, if I was then going into another stroke. Whereas here, I do it and it just looks really quite odd looking there. We're going to get this weird negative space that looks more like holes rather than proper hairs, okay? Rather than nice clean little negative spacing and nice hairs. So another thing that we want to think about is with our strokes is being lighter on the immediate contact. So coming out the skin straight with a lighter touch into a bit of a heavier touch and then finishing off again lighter so that we get these nice sort of wispy dual ended strokes like so. Okay, because again, they're just so much more easier to then go in and blend and look really natural. So that was the S stroke. Now let's talk about the curve stroke, another one that we use. So I'm going to draw a brow line for this. Okay, so when I was demonstrating the S strokes, I was demonstrating it from the left side. So when you're going to practice, make sure you're doing both sides, okay? And always start on your harder side, to be fair. So I'll draw a brow line here. So what I often used to see and people do is when they were doing their curve strokes, they would really start again over curving them, like on immediate leaving the skin, like so. And what happened when you done that is instead of like the strokes flowing like fan shaped along the bottom, if you were to keep continuing that stroke, it would point more towards that way, and you really don't want that. You'll get this like sort of like look like a caricature brow rather than a nice flowing brow. So when you're coming out the skin, think about this being the bulb area of the brow, this section. So if we were to draw a line like right down here, and when we're starting our strokes, even if it's S, we really want to be thinking about this section so that when we're coming out the skin straight, we're flowing off, we're flowing from this area rather than being starting here and then hooking away around like that. Okay, so that's a great guide. And again, your curve strokes can really have a big bend on them. They could be quite flat, but as long as they're really flowing, if they were to continue on from there, they would be pointing into that direction. So there's a couple of things for you to think about. Okay? So everything is going to be straighter on approach. Can have more bend here. I can even wrap round a lot there. But as long as it's kind of straight going into a soft bend here rather than that hook and then here. And again, curves. So that's a great tip, guys. I would definitely suggest going to paper or an iPad if you have it and just practicing that on both sides and then start doing some single strokes on latex. And even when you're doing it on latex, you're really thinking about that light, heavy, light pressure. So that's like a mantra that you've kind of got in your head before you actually begin the strokes. Okay, guys, so now we've really leveled up our strokes so that it starts us off on the right foot so that when you then go in to build the brows, we can now look at connecting strokes in bundles. Okay, so when you take natural brows and you start to have a look through them, you'll see little hairs attached onto these other single hairs that make things look like they have more volume. It looks more realistic and it's just amazing. Years ago, we never had the ability to do that. One, because the tools weren't that great. So the tools weren't that sharp. So they didn't really allow you to create as much detail as that, okay? So now that the tools are better and we're going to develop how our technique is as well, we should be able to create bundles and stuff too, okay? And create things to look more hyper-realistic. So the first rule when attaching a bundle, so a bundle can be made up of your single strand, so your single main stroke, and then it can have 2 or 3 hairs attached to it. So the first thing that you want to think about is where you're actually attaching the bundle to. So what I always say, the best place to attach a bundle is 2/3 of the way up the stroke. Okay? Because when you do that, you really, really end up with a nice single stroke finish. Okay? Things look still nice and tapered because we always want the edges of our brow being tapered. If we attach our bundle up too high and we go past and we are more like here, we're going to get this kind of shark fin vibes. We really want to avoid doing that, okay? And again, sometimes we can often see people attaching it right at the top and then it finishes off really, really thick. So we want to do that. So the best place to attach your bundle is 2/3 of the way up the stroke, okay? And then what you want is things to really start to taper in this area as well. So when you're attaching your bundle, you could still attach it 2/3 of the way up, but it would end up just being like that. It's good to just start to think about tapering the stroke in. Oh, that wasn't a bad example. Like here. Okay, so things start to look more tapered. We also want to think about the pressure of our stroke, okay? So when we've got our single main strokes, normally in the skeleton, so we've used these strokes to create the shape and we're then going on to the bundles, these strokes tend to be a bit more heavier in pressure. Well, I tend to do them a bit more heavy in pressure because ultimately I want them strokes to be there when the client comes back for the top up. And I also want to create this light and dark sort of theme going throughout the brow so it looks even more hyper-realistic. So when you do have a look at brows, you will see that the hairs that are attached onto it are lighter and they're finer. So you want to think about the strokes that you're attaching on to being a little bit more lighter pressure than your very main stroke. One, is going to look more natural, but also two, you're not going to get any major blowout in that area when you then go into that channel again. So we all know in microblading that we're creating a fine channel through the skin. And if we went thin here and we've created a bit more density in there, ultimately the stroke part, the part of the stroke when we're going to attach it onto is going to be a bit denser, so we want this single stroke going in to be finer so that we don't create that blow up. Okay. Now, the shape of the attaching stroke. So if I've went for an S stroke here, so what I want to think about doing is when I'm attaching the stroke onto it, I don't want to then go for like what we showed you on the single strokes, is one of these overly curved strokes like that, so that we get a bundle that kind of has this weird bit facing in, because you'll really struggle to flow like that. So if you wanted to attach a curved stroke onto the S stroke, that's fine, but it needs to be a bit straighter coming out the skin into it, so that they're a bit more cohesive there as well. Okay, so that's another thing to consider when you're doing a curved stroke and you want to attach a bundle. You can sort of S that going in. It looks good. Okay, but again, it's just really normally with the S stroke, when you see an overly curved one going into it, you want to avoid that. Okay, so the length of the attaching stroke as well. So you can start a bundle from the same part so for example, you can start at the same level along the bottom. Oh, the pen stopped working. Why is that? Because the colour's changed. So you can start a stroke at the same level. Or you can be a little bit shorter. Okay, so they could be a little bit shorter here as well. That works too. So we can be at the same level along the bottom, or we can be slightly shorter, but as long as it's attaching at the 2/3 point. We can also extend the stroke. So for example, we made some shorter strokes like this, and we want to attach a bundle onto it 2/3 of the way up. We can go in and we can connect and we can extend the stroke, as long as it's fine and it's tapered and it's connected in the right part. So we can always go in and extend the stroke as well. Okay, so for example, you've made some shorter strokes along the bottom like this, and you want to go in and extend the length of them like that. You can do that as well. The next thing we want to think about is the width of the attaching stroke. Okay, so when we're going to attach our bundle 2/3 of the way up always, we don't want to be starting away over here and trying to attach our bundle like here. Okay, so you can have it wider, but you don't want to be too wide. Okay, you don't want to be too wide, because that's just not going to flow. You're going to create a lot of roadblocks in when you're going to build in other parts of the brow. So you want to be at a decent distance. You could be even in tighter than that, slightly bigger, but not like the way that I first done it. So the width really, really all counts as well. Now, we can also go upwards and downwards. Okay, so right now I'm demonstrating strokes that would be flowing along the bottom line of the brow up to the top line of the brow. Okay, and I'm attaching my bundle from the bottom line here. But we can basically create our bundle like going the opposite way. So we can start our bundle here, but it can be flowing out this way as well. Okay, so that's upwards and downwards. Okay, so here we are here. We could be 2/3 of the way up, and we can be attaching it like this. Okay, so it can go up the way and down the way. We can also attach it from different sides. So for example, we're here, and most of the time I've been attaching the bundle like coming into it like this, but we can go ahead and we can attach our bundle from this side as well. Again, of different lengths as well, so it might be shorter and it might be from the brow line as well. We can attach more than one hair. So right now we're just doubling up. We can triple up. So right now we can have an S stroke. We can attach a bundle here. We can then attach another bundle to make it longer. So what we would do would be take the area of the hair that we're going to attach it onto, so it would be this section here. We'd split that into 2/3, and then we'd attach a single stroke onto it, and again, as long as we're extending it and making it longer. So we can do that also. And then, guys, we can create bundles within bundles. So we've got the single stroke. We've attached a bundle. We've got this negative state space to play around with. We can then go and attach another bundle. Again, the 2/3 rule always counts, like so. We could even fit in another one here, slightly higher up. And we attach in that one like that, okay? So we can start making them into little baby bundles, if we can call it that. Now, your downward strokes, all right? So these would be strokes that would be going along the top line of your brow, facing towards the tail. So they'd be like your arch strokes and your tail strokes. So they would start up here and be coming down like so. And we do the bundles from there as well. So we start again 2/3, and we can attach it from this side. And we can also attach it from this side. Oh, that was crossing over. And we could start up higher, and we can come down here. And we can make it longer, okay? So these would be, your tail strokes, basically. And that is pretty much it. There's a lot of information in that, guys. So I would definitely take the time to pause the video, write down all the rules, all the things that you can do, like that type of thing, and just get to practicing on the left side and the right side on paper or iPad, and then taking it to the latex and practicing it with your blade.